Right, in today's very fast-paced and ever-evolving digital landscape, creating an exceptional customer journey has become imperative for retailers and e-commerce brands. So I'm delighted to have such a heavy-hitting panel to come and discuss this topic with me today. So let's kick off. And the first question that I wanted to dig into is, what is your approach to shaping the ideal customer experience? And how do you define a best-in-class experience for your customers? And
should we first introduce ourselves?
Oh, yeah, that is a great point. That was the one thing I said. You have to make sure that we don't forget that. Everybody has to introduce themselves and their role so you know who they're talking to. So let's start there. Doug, let's start with you.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. Really excited to be here. Name's Douglas Fong. I lead the, I'm the head of digital commerce at Harry's, where my goal is to build out all our digitally native channels as it fits into our larger omni-channel portfolio.
Hi, I'm Jenna Posner, CDO of Solo Brands. We are a public portfolio of outdoor lifestyle brands, namely Solo Stove, most widely distributed smokeless fire pit on the planet, Chubby's, Isle, Oru, and a number of others. Psyched to be here today.
Hi, everybody. I'm Michelle Fitzpatrick. I'm the VP of Global Strategy for Marigold. And for those of you who don't know who Marigold is, we are a relationship marketing company. Come see us in booth 505, I think it is. Anyway, my role is CRM strategy, customer experience. Thrilled to be part of this panel today. Ruchika?
Hi. Hello, everyone. I'm Ruchika. I lead digital experience at J.Crew Group. So if you think about all the digital experience touch points, web, mobile, apps, these days, Vision OS, we're in the Apple, new Apple technology, clienteling, and that's across J.Crew, Madewell, and J.Crew Factory.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Urban. I'm the Vice President of e-commerce and marketing for Camuto, which is a fashion and footwear brand.
Great. Okay, Ruchika, let's start with you, if I may. How are you thinking about threading the ideal customer experience through an omnichannel and customer lifecycle lens?
Sure thing. So for me, digital experience is all about removing friction at every point that we can and customer delight. And you can think of them as two sort of ends of the spectrum. And then in the middle, we've got the core customer experience. And I think customers today are demanding more and more like software-like experiences. They see other technologies on their phone, whether it's their Uber or Instacart, and they're expecting a seamless and engaging experience. And so that means that I'll take inspiration from these other verticals, whether I'm looking at my Delta app and how it's giving me real-time information on my flight, or whether I'm looking at Spotify and how it does recommendations, and sort of take that and harness them and think about how does that apply to the retail industry and the digital retail experiences that we want to create. We'll think about channel first. So we've got our mobile app and our mobile website. We just launched our mobile app last year, and a lot of thought went into how do we differentiate this experience? Parity sensibly, but differentiate deliberately is something we talk about. And so we lead in that scenario. We made it a membership-only app. So you have to be logged in to use it, and it really allowed us to double down on personalization experiences. And then beyond that, when we think about customer lifecycle, we really want to thread experiences, as you said, from not just awareness, search and browse, and obviously PDP and checkout, but really throughout the customer experience. I obsess over order management, post-purchase experience, membership services, and then those multi-channel shoppers that are going into the store and out. And then right down on the third layer, I'd say interaction design. Like really like when someone's clicking on a size chart, why are they clicking on it? How can we get them that information better without any friction? And so from a channel to a journey to an interaction is really how we think about creating the ideal customer experience.
Doug, I come to you next. How are Harry's thinking about that ideal customer experience and how it relates to how you think about omnichannel?
Yeah. For Harry's, it's been a really interesting journey because we're started as like a DTC-only brand. And for those that may know, Harry's is a shaving brand. We're about having an amazing shave at a fair price. And we have our own German factory, and we're very much in trying to build just amazing quality, but in a way that could give value to the customer. We started off a DTC-only brand. And being a DTC-only brand, there's like certain things that we're optimizing for. The ideal digital customer experience as a DTC-only brand is very different from being an ideal. What is then the ideal customer experience if you're then on DTC and Amazon and one retailer? But that might be different if you're on 2 retailers, maybe Target, Walmart, and Costco. Like, then some of the goals actually start changing over time. I think when we're kind of DTC only, it's very much, how do we get customers in, right? How do we lower our customer acquisition cost as much as possible? Friction super low, convert as fast as possible, get them to kind of repurchase. And then what we've learned over the years now is as we have much more channels, people might come to DTC first, they might see an ad, and then they might go buy it on Amazon. Like, we've seen that. We've talked to customers like, oh yeah, I saw that ad on Facebook, it looks really nice. I'm gonna go straight to Amazon.com and look it up. Right? We've also learned cases where people try it out on DTC first, and then for their next purchase, they're actually buying it at Target or Walmart or Costco or some other places. And so the role of DTC then is less about maybe driving a whole bunch of revenue at super low customer acquisition costs. But then it's kind of shifted a little bit for us, where how do we then showcase our products? How do we showcase our brand? We've learned from customers that they've gone to the aisle and they're looking at, hey, Harry's body wash. What is that? Let me go look it up before I buy it. And then look at it, oh, that's pretty cool. And then they'll buy it in the store. So then the goal of our DTC is maybe we don't necessarily want them to convert and buy body wash on our site at that point where they're at the store. And so that kind of like changing kind of evolution of what ideal customer experience has really shifted in terms of our goal from digital. And it's shifted the way that we've actually done a lot of our marketing around it as well. And so I think there's a lot of factors to be involved, but I think for us it's we want to meet the customer where they are. And as we have more places where we're meeting the customer, the digital portion of what is ideal starts evolving quite a bit through the whole journey.
And Jenna, how are you thinking about shaping the ideal customer experience, and specifically, how does wholesale actually support your D2C strategy?
Yeah, to tie into what Douglas was saying, there's a really interesting opportunity here, twofold. One is to recognize the fact that just because we're a direct-to-consumer brand doesn't mean that the expectations of these consumers are changing. These are still omni-channel consumers with omni-channel expectations. And so we have a really interesting opportunity with the growth of our retail channel from a channel mix perspective to actually lean in and ask ourselves the questions, how can we be best serving these consumers at the intersection of their expectations and our inventory position? So something we're leaning into this year is really understanding how do we blur the lines between these physical retail store locations and leverage them as product on the ground to help inform some of these e-commerce experiences. Again, consumers are coming to the site, and a percentage of those consumers are ready to buy a Solo Stove right now, and they're going to have it shipped to their home. But some of them still want to touch and feel it before they buy it. Some want it delivered today. Some of them are wanting to go pick it up. And so I believe the onus is on us as a D2C brand to connect those relationships with our retailers and create those really unique customer experiences.
And Michelle, maybe if I can come to you, how are you seeing retailers actually support the consumer's desire for an omnichannel kind of path to purchase?
Yeah, I think that this all kind of gets to this ideal customer experience idea, the notion that that ideal experience is actually defined by the customer. And whether you're talking about a consumer that wants to look at the product in the showroom before they buy it online, looking at the omni-channel way people are consuming content, on all the things that they're interested in, we have to kind of recognize that people have been through a really difficult time the past few years. And what they crave is a very human-centered, very convenience-centered, and digitally enabled experience. And when you think about kind of unlocking all of those things, that listening to the customer, hearing from them, observing their behaviors, being right for them in the moment, and it all points to this notion of channel preference and needs are very situational. If I've got a problem, I want to talk to a human being. If I'm in research mode, I want to look at lots of information in lots of different places so that I can make a very informed decision. And whether that happens in a couple minutes for one consumer or a couple of months for another, it all depends on the consumer and the thing they're trying to buy and their comfort with that category. And then when I'm ready to buy, I might need to touch it, feel it, see it before I make the transaction wherever that's going to occur. In line with kind of thinking about omni-channel, we know that 70 to 75% of all purchases are still made in physical locations. And I know I'm saying that here at eTail. So the idea that we recognize that the digital experiences that we support with consumers, the ways we engage with them are all part of a consumer-directed journey. And people have gotten really creative about figuring out how to get what they need on their own terms.
Now let's talk a little bit about what we think is actually going to truly move the needle and where your investments are actually focused most. So, Stephanie, if I could come to you, and specifically, it'd be very interesting you talk a little bit about your influencer strategy.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Your influencer strategy, if you could mention that.
Influencers, yes. So I think one of the things that a few of you have already mentioned is just really making sure that you're listening to the customer. And for us, what we've done is really evolve that all the way down to our product strategy. So we have been doing a lot of testing and learning within our influencer program, which we treat as a performance marketing channel. So definitely have ROAS and revenue goals behind every single influencer that we're testing with. We have a tiered strategy. So we have our always-on influencers, then we have the testing tier, and then we have micro and moving up the ladder type influencers that kind of start getting folded into our programs. And so after recognizing which influencers work for our brand specifically, we've now moved to the next step and started developing product with those influencers. So that was super, super successful for us in 2023, and we have a really exciting influencer collaboration launching next month, but really kind of making sure that you're listening to your customer and seeing what she's responding to and then taking that all the way to a product level has been really impactful for us.
Jenna, maybe if I can come to you next. When we were on the prep tool, you mentioned about AI-powered chatbots, and that you were doing some stuff around that and some of the results. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So like everyone, we are trying to get really exciting AI use cases in market, and we were able to do this successfully with a partner, Simpler. They have an AI generative chatbot that we were able to implement, and the results that we saw were pretty staggering. First off, we saw a 40% attach rate, so 40% of the consumers that engaged with the bot was actually able to solve the ticket. So for us, it freed up a lot of consumers. It allowed, or not consumers, our customer service reps, it freed them up to actually be available for things like escalations or challenges or needs that consumers had that really needed some human intervention. And so for us, it was fantastic in that sense, but it also helped because it decreased our workload by about 30%. So typically when you're dealing with these like decision trees of chatbots and that are not generative, they're only as good as the flows that you create. And so you actually have to spend human man hours to build them, if this, then that. If they answer yes, here's the response. And you have to build all of these out and measure them and adjust them and create more efficiencies around them. The bot just does it. The bot is just efficient. It learns, it's amazing. And additionally, if you do it right, it can pump out things like new policy recommendations or updates to your FAQs that you can publish online. It really is getting more and more sophisticated over time, and it's been a really big success for us.
Stephanie, you mentioned that you were, when we were talking in our prep call, about you were testing some AI-powered tools to optimize conversion rates. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we haven't launched yet, but we've been talking to a vendor who essentially is able to, leveraging AI, identify pain points on the website. So where people are rage clicking, where people are bouncing out, what type of hangups you can kind of find within checkout, and doing that at a faster speed than a dev team can do because of AI. And then it actually, because they can see the AOV on your site and how much people are typically spending, they're able to rank the priority list for the dev team to then go tackle those issues on site. So we're really hoping to roll that out soon.
Yeah, so much testing and learning going on. Doug, if I come to you, how are you balancing investments in brand versus performance marketing as you think about the evolving digital customer experience?
Yeah, and we were talking about, I was talking about earlier how as we've evolved from being kind of digital only, DTC only, and kind of been a lot of different channels, what we've learned is kind of like that relationship with our brand marketing. It actually, we can unlock so much more by working closely together. Because I think at least in Harry's past, probably some others in the, here as well can attest to this, where I think a performance marketing is just so focused on just customer acquisition costs. Whatever customers will click through, we're gonna do it because it's gonna lower our costs, and that's great, regardless of what brand kind of equity we're trying to build, right? And then maybe on the flip side, at least in Harry's past, we've been so focused on brand building that we're not really thinking about what is the right ROI of that relative to some of the other things that we've been doing. And I think as we've been in so many more channels, we're not just doing digital marketing anymore. We're doing mailers, right? We're doing radio, right? We're doing things like TV now. I mean, we've never done TV as DTC only, well, at least back then. And I think what's been interesting as we're creating, a lot more ways to connect with our customer, is trying to really focus, working with the brand team and saying, what are the guardrails in which, we want to give you the freedom to iterate really quickly and move really fast, but not have to get every single ad approved by the team, right? What are the guardrails that we could put in so you could still move fast, but still feel good that we're building the brand together? And then on the brand marketing side, it's how do we make sure we have the discipline to also continue to measure and see how we're doing, not necessarily to compare it to performance marketing per se, but to make sure that what resources we're spending, we're getting the right ROI, so we can at least compare, and we can still make the decision based on other factors. But it's having that discipline to make sure that we're constantly setting the right framework so we can have that discussion, because we're spending a fair amount of money on TV now. It's doing really well for us, and it's also making sure that we're our brand message is also going out. So it's really important that as we then do a lot of these marketing activities together, and then we're on the end caps at some of these retailers, right? There's a lot of synergy happening, right? Where we have all of our digital messaging, and then along with TV, and then with our end caps, and what we're seeing is we're able to get that synergy when all these different channels kind of come up together. And so I think that's kind of where it's a little bit more work in setting up those frameworks and those guardrails up front. But I think what we're able to unlock for the business has been far worth it in terms of that effort.
Now, how do you actually build truly differentiated experiences that leverage customer data? Michelle, maybe if we could start with you. How should brands and retailers leverage customer data and AI to drive more personally and contextually relevant experiences?
I love this question. So, there's a lot of energy and excitement about AI. There's a lot of experimentation underway. But I will tell you, as somebody who's done this for a long time, that the technology doesn't build your strategy. You have to have a strategy and the technology that enables you to deliver on that. And when I think about this omni-channel customer experience, I think there's a couple of key components that are really important. One, we've got to stop thinking about people as transactions and volume metrics and clicks and views and all that kind of stuff. We've got to think about people as people. And when you do that, you start thinking about things like contextual relevance. And it starts with show me, you know me. So data and technology come together to create insights and intelligence about that person in that moment so that you know best how to serve them along their journey. So start with the show me, you know me. That gives you the ability to kind of reflect what you should know about that person at that time. If it's the first meeting between a human being and your brand, well, you're not going to know that much about them. But if they're a repeat shopper, you should know more about them, and you should use that information to make the experience better for them. So show me, you know me is the first step on the tour. The second is make it worth my while as a consumer to provide more information about myself. And brands who do a really good job of that kind of use it in the moment, in real time, using AI and other technologies to be able to deliver a truly personalized experience, knowing that the context matters. And brands who do those first two things right, show me, you know me, make it worth my while to provide more information, usually win the brand love game, right? So if you're rewarded with repeat visits, consideration when the person is in need for things that you offer, and the metrics all get better. But it's all about kind of leveraging data and technology to power that strategy. It's not the data and the technology aren't the basis of the strategy.
Jenna, you mentioned on our prep call something I found very interesting, and that was, a lot of companies out there, when you're talking about customer data, they're investing in loyalty programs as that vehicle to actually capture that data. But you had a cautionary tale about kind of one-size-fits-all loyalty program. So comment on that if you...
Yeah, absolutely. I do think the one dependency to your comment is having access to your cleansed data, right? Mm-hmm. There is a need for infrastructure to support the collection and utilization of your data. And I do think that the concept of a loyalty program creates an opportunity for that, right? The construct of how you're going to ingest the data, the intention, the buy-in, the connection and relationship with the customer, the intention of actually building something, building a program, building a relationship long-term, right? So I think it's a marketing strategy, right? It's a data capture strategy. I think the challenge that most brands get into is they tend to check the box on loyalty to serve their leaders. And I think what happens is a lot of them get stuck in these single publish programs. And the challenge is that, I'm sure we can imagine, not every consumer is going to be motivated by the same milestones. Not everyone's going to be motivated by the same rewards or incentives or communication. And so when you get stuck in these single publish programs, you're treating everybody the same, and it doesn't work. And so we're kind of stuck in between this kind of era right now of, hey, we need something. We need a way to capture the data. We need a way to organize it. We need a way to measure our success over time. But we also have this new opportunity to leverage AI over our unstructured data to actually get more one-to-one communication. And that's what I'm really excited about. I think there is an amalgamation of the concept of loyalty and the utilization of AI to actually evolve those programs in real time on a one-to-one or one-to-many scenario where we can actually start treating these consumers independently and individually and really measuring the impact of some of these incentives or offers or personalization or whatever it might be that's going to help take the mystery out of pulling these custom segments out of our CDPs and trying to put them to work in context of retention. So I'm really bullish. I've been in loyalty for a very long time. Prior to my retail life, I was actually on the retail tech side for a long time, and so I'm intimately involved with platforms. I think this is the spirit that's been missing within loyalty, and so I'm ready for VCs to start funding some of this and allow this to really start to evolve. So I'm bullish on it. I think it's going to be very interesting this year.
All right. Now, last question, I've got a couple of minutes left. I wanted to quickly, briefly touch on how do you evaluate success as you're shaping the ideal customer experience, and what metrics do you look at? So maybe first I'll actually start with you, Ruchika, because you mentioned something quite interesting, which was the lack of a KPI sometimes can be quite interesting, particularly when you're doing testing and learning. Give us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely. When we're building our digital strategy and our tech roadmap, there's a few things that, a few pillars that make it up. We talk about foundations, our features, and our futures. And our features are the core things that we're going to measure with traditional sort of ROI KPIs and site metrics and lifts. And our foundational work, which are enablers, will be measured in different ways, potentially performance, if it's a technology improvement, and potentially if it's identity, it might be the number of customers we can identify that will enable us to do personalization. So very different types of ways of evaluating. But the futures that we reserve a little bit of space for in the roadmap, that's really where it gets interesting, because it's not an ROI, right? It's not going to show up in your funnel metrics tomorrow. In fact, some of these things are on different devices that we don't even understand the funnel metrics for. And so really what you're trying to do is push sort of brand love, push CSAT, keep an eye on those things, but you're sort of testing and learning and pushing the boundaries into new frontiers. And I think to the point with the AI, we're all going to be learning new things and looking for new ways of loyalty. I couldn't agree more with what Jenna was saying, and also Michelle, and show them that you know them. And so to do that, that doesn't mean I measure from my own metrics, right? Because that's me. How many product view rates did you do? How many add to carts? Where's your checkout conversion? It's a whole new set of metrics that we need to define, but how the customer really looks at you saw me and you know me, and how they interpret that, and then we can really progress. So recently, yeah, we've been flying a little bit more blind on a couple of new innovative solutions. So no metric.
Well, that's it. We've come to the end of our time. So if I could ask you all to put your hands together to say a big thanks to our panelists.
Good job. Good.